Hi everyone. In the last few videos, we were talking about loader and the different loading schemes. And we have covered compile and go loader, general loading scheme, absolute loader, subroutine linkage mechanism, relocating loader and direct linking loader. In today's video, we are going to see few more loading schemes, that is binder, dynamic loading, overlay and dynamic linking. In the last class, we have seen that the main problems associated with the direct linking loader. The main problem is that whenever we are having a program which contains many subroutines, each time when we execute the main program, we need to allocate, relocate, link and load all the subroutines each time. So it is very much time consuming. And one more thing is, even though the loader program is smaller than assembler program, it requires more space in the core memory. So how can we avoid this? The main solution to this problem is that divide the loading process into two separate programs, that is a binder program and a module loader. We know that what are the basic functions of a loader. The basic functions of a loader are allocation, relocation, linking and loading. A binder program will perform allocation, relocation and linking, whereas a module loader will load the program into the core memory. Now we'll see in detail about a binder and a module loader. Let's start with the binder program. Binder program performs all the functions of the direct linking loader. How does the direct linking loader links the subroutines? In the same way, binder program will also be able to bind. After that, the relocated and linked text will not be directly stored into the memory in this particular binder program. Whereas in the case of direct linking loader, the relocated and linked text will be loaded directly into the memory. But in the case of a binder program, the relocated and linked text will be available in the form of a file or codec. And this particular output format is ready to be loaded into the memory. And this output file is called as load module. And the module loader will load this particular load module into the memory for execution. So the main functions of the binder are allocation, relocation and linking. There are two major classes of binders, that is core image builder and linkage editor. What is core image builder? In this particular type of binder, the output load module will exactly look like the absolute loader file. When I taught about the absolute loader, we have seen what is the output format of a absolute loader. So in the case of core image builder binder form, the output will look like a absolute loader output. And in this particular method, specific core allocation of the program is performed at the time that the subroutines are bound together. Whenever we want to bind our subroutines into the main program, only that time we will be allocating the space in the core for those programs. Okay, and the output of this binder, that is that particular load module, will look actually like our image or snapshot of our core section. That's why it is called as core image module. and this particular binder is called as core image builder. Why are we saying that it is an actual snapshot or image of the core is that the load module or the output of this particular binder is ready to be loaded in the memory. So what is the format of data in the core memory? In the same way we are loading or we are storing in the load module, that is the output of the particular binder. That's why we call that this particular load module looks actually like our core section. Then this one is simple and works relatively fast, but it is difficult to allocate and load our program. So that is the main disadvantages of the core image builder binder. Now we are moving on to the linkage editor. In this particular binder program, load module, that is output of the binder, will contains relocation information. So what is the advantage of this? So the load module can be further relocated to anywhere in our core memory. So here the module loader must perform additional allocation, relocation and loading. Okay, actually binder will perform allocation, relocation and linking. Apart from that, in this particular linkage editor binder, since it contains relocation information, again if we want to perform the relocation, additional allocation, relocation and loading has to be performed by module loader. But it won't be having any worry about the problem of linking. Okay, then here the working of this binder is actually pretty complex, but it allows flexible allocation and loading scheme than our core image builder binder. Then the next separate program of our loader is module loader. As I told you, the module loader will receive the output of the binder program, and that is the load module. That load module will be physically loaded into the core memory by the module loader. So the main function of the module loader is loading, and the main function of binder is allocation, relocation and linking. That's all about the binder and a module loader. Binder program and module loader are the two separate programs which are using to avoid the problems of the direct linking loader. So in order to that, we will be dividing the loader program into two programs, that is binder and module loader. Now we are moving on to the next loading scheme, that is dynamic loading. Okay, so dynamic loading is also known as load on call. Okay, whatever loading schemes we have studied so far, you can notice that in all those schemes, it is assumed that all the required subroutines are loaded into the core at the same time. Otherwise, I can say that suppose I am having a program A. Program A is containing many other subroutines. Okay, so whenever we are creating the object program for the main program A, it will be containing the object program along with the object program for the subroutines. And this combined code, that is the combined object code of main program A along with the subroutines object code will be loaded into the at the time of the execution. That means, again I am repeating, whenever we want to execute a program and if that program is containing many subroutines, the program object code along with the object codes of all the subroutines will be loaded into the memory. But at a particular time, we may not be using all the subroutines. We may need only one particular subroutine. So in the previous loading schemes, this particular way of loading all the subroutines object code into the memory is wastage of is leading into the wastage of memory. In order to avoid this, we have several hardware techniques, that is such as paging and segmentation. So another method is the dynamic loading. So the dynamic loading with binders allow to load only the main program in the beginning of the execution. It won't load the other subroutines into the program. So first it will load the main program into the core memory. Then if it is calling the subroutine, it will check in the core memory if it is there or not. If that particular subroutine is not loaded into the core memory, then control will transfer to the loader. Then again loader will load that particular subroutine into the core memory at the time of the execution, and it won't load the remaining subroutines. So whenever we want to execute a particular subroutine, at that time only we will load that particular subroutine and we won't load the remaining subroutines. That is called dynamic loading. Now we are moving on to the another way of loading, that is overlay. Overlay, the main advantages of overlay mechanism is that, suppose we have a process to load into the memory for execution, but the size of the memory allotted to the program or the process is less than that entire program size. In that time we will be using overlays. Okay, so the main purpose of the overlay is that it will keep in memory only those subroutines that are needed at any given time. As I discussed in the previous slide, as I told you in the previous slide, dynamic loading, it allows only the subroutines which we need at that particular time will be loaded into the memory. So overlays will always make sure that it will keep in memory only those subroutines that are needed at any given time. And also another advantage is that whenever we have a memory space which is less than our entire program size, how will we execute or how will we allocate our program into that small space? In that case, we can use the overlay structures or the overlay mechanism. In this overlays concept, it will be dividing into different overlays so that each overlay will fit into available memory. And one more thing, each overlay is independent of other overlay. But for the proper execution of a process, there should be a particular order in which the overlays has to be executed. Okay, so if we know explicitly that which subroutines call other subroutines, it is possible for the programmer to create a overlay structure and identifies the mutually exclusive subroutines. So what is mutually exclusive subroutines? If I have subroutine A and subroutine B, subroutine B will occur only after subroutine A. Then we call subroutine A and subroutine B are mutually exclusive. In order to understand mutually exclusive subroutines, we need to create the overlay structure. Okay, so from the overlay structure, we will be able to find out different overlays, and each overlay will be independent of the other overlay. So at a time we will load only one overlay to the memory and we will execute that overlay, and after the execution of one overlay we will replace that overlay with the another overlay. So the responsibility of creating overlay structure is the programmer. So programmer will create the overlay structure and it will execute. Okay, then there are many binders capable of processing and allocating an overlay structure. Then the portion of the loader which loads the necessary procedure into the memory, that is called overlay supervisor or flipper. I told you in the beginning, overlay make sure that it will load only the subroutine which we need now into the memory. So the part of the loader program which does this process is called overlay supervisor or flipper, and this entire mechanism is called dynamic loading or load on call. So in order to achieve the dynamic loading, we will be making use of the overlay structures. Now we will see with an example. As you can see in the figure, we have three figures, that is A, B and C. In the first diagram, it is showing the subroutine calls between the procedures. We have procedures A, B, C, D, E. A is our main program and it has mentioned the size of each procedures. So together the entire program size is 100K. And the arrow mark is representing the subroutine calls. So it is clear that program A or the subroutine main program A is calling subroutine B, D and E. Then program B is calling subroutine C and E. Similarly, D will be calling E. Okay. So, but the problem is that only the allotted memory for this entire program is 70K. But look into the storage diagram, third diagram, that is 0 to 70K. Okay, that means the only allotted memory for the particular main program A is 70K, but it is clear that the entire length of the program is 100K. So in order to achieve this, we will be using overlays. So the programmer will create the overlay structure. If we know what all subroutines are calling the other subroutines, the programmer can produce the overlay structure. So the figure B is representing the overlay structure. So program A is calling B, E, D, but not at the same time. If a condition is true, then it will call B. Otherwise, if the other condition is true, then it will call E. Otherwise, it will call D. So at a time, program A will call either B or E or D. Similarly, at a time, program B will call either subroutine C or subroutine E. Then similarly, program D will call subroutine E. When we look into this overlay structure, it is clear that this particular overlay structure can be divided into 4 overlays. So the first overlay tells the execution of the program, like A calls B, B calls C. That is one overlay. Another overlay will be A calls B and B calls E. Then the third overlay will be A calls E. Then the fourth overlay will be A calls D and D calls E. So the maximum size of the overlay will be the maximum size of the deepest overlay. So what is the deepest overlay? A, B, C and A, B, E. In that, if we consider overlay A, B, C, the total size will be 20 plus 20, 40, 40 plus 30, 70. And if we consider the next one, A, B, E, it will be 60. So the maximum will be 70K. It will fit in our allotted memory space. Okay. So what the overlay or what the flipper will do, flipper or the overlay supervisor means what? That is the part of the loader program which will search which subroutine we need to or which overlay we need to store into the memory for execution at the present time. Depending upon that, overlay supervisor or the flipper will load one overlay by overlay into the memory, core memory. So first it will load, suppose if it is loading overlay 1 and it will execute that overlay 1. After that it will remove that and it will replace with the next overlay. So the which overlay has to call, it is depending upon that, it is deciding by a program. A part of the loader program is called overlay supervisor or the flipper. That is about the overlay. Okay, now we are moving on to dynamic linking. Okay, so the dynamic linking concept is similar to dynamic loading, but instead of loading, here linking is postponed till execution. So I told you in the dynamic loading, if we have a program with many subroutines, we will not load the main program with all the subroutine. Whenever we execute each subroutine, that time we will only load that particular subroutine into the memory, which means we are postponing our loading till the execution. But in the case of dynamic linking, linking is postponed till execution. Okay, so it is mainly deals with shared libraries. Okay, so libraries means what? These are the most commonly or frequently used routines in our program. Okay, and it will be kept in the pre-compiled form in our library. Okay, so dynamic linking is mainly deals with the shared libraries. Libraries are nothing but it is the commonly using or frequently using subroutines that are kept in the pre-compiled form in the library. Okay, so when we are, suppose we have many procedures and suppose we have a main program. In the main program, we are using a printf function. Okay, similarly, we have many other programs. All these programs are making use of the printf function. Okay, so what will happen? Whenever we are generating object code for each program, it will include object code for the printf in all the programs object code. So it means what? It is not use of linking our subroutine code into the main code. Okay, so in the case of, so why should we link the code of printf module into the object code of all processes? Why can't we keep a single piece of code of printf in the main memory and make accessible to every process? That means even though we have a commonly requiring printf function, we will not generate the object code for the printf in all the procedures or the programs. Instead of that, we will keep a common copy in the main memory and it will be available as a single piece of information to all the processors. So whenever we are executing each process, whenever each process see this piece of information, it will transfer the control to that particular common printf address in the core memory and it will execute that printf function. So means what? Dynamic linking means it will not link all the time. Okay, so if there is any commonly or frequently occurring subroutine, it will make as a single copy in the program and whenever we need that, we will access it. So the disadvantages of the other schemes are, if a subroutine is referenced but never executed, but still we will link that subroutine with our main program. There is no need of that. In order to avoid that, we are using dynamic linking. In this scheme, if the main program should execute a transfer instruction to an external address or external variable, the loader is called. Okay, so whenever we want to execute a external address or external variable like printf, we have to call the loader. Then we have to link with that program. Okay, only at the run time. So what are the disadvantages and advantages of the dynamic linking? So again, advantages are no overhead of linking or loading until actually used. Okay, so that means we are not linking or loading until we used. That means whenever we want to execute that function, only that time we will perform the linking or loading. Then system can be dynamically configured. So every process is happening at the runtime. Then the main disadvantage is that overhead and complexity of postponing the binder process until execution time. So every linking and loading will be happening till the execution time. So it will happen only at the time of execution. So postponing is not a good thing. So overhead and complexity of postponing the binder process until execution time is the main disadvantage of the direct linking scheme. That's all about the other loading schemes, that is binders, overlays, dynamic loading and dynamic linking. Thank you for watching.